So, welcome back. This is part 2, and as you see, we're up to page 14, and now we're on a new chapter, and it's all about the cross. So it's going to be intriguing, this. Obviously, I don't have to show you what it could look like on a lot of them because it's a cross, but we're still going to enjoy reading it out, and we'll have a chat about some of the crosses. So as you can see, new chapter, the cross, and let's start with the first one. The Latin cross, crux ordinaria, in early times called God's mark. Funny, God's mark has 4 points, and originally Janus had 4 heads, and this is the oldest, one of the oldest Janus is found with 4 heads. It's on the oldest bridge in Rome. We'll not say too much about that. Anyway, the most exalted emblem of the Christian faith, Christian, Christian, Christ Janos. Again, more coincidence that people just don't want to look at. The sign of all signs. So this is a sign of Janos, the corporation. The corporation use it now. By far the greater number of signs in the Western world are based on this shape, or part of the shape of the cross, whether they be imperial monograms, Masonic signs, family signs, chemical symbols, or trademarks. So this is the Latin cross. Remember, Janos was the king of Latium. Latin. You got it. One and the same. So this is going to be intriguing looking at crosses, and this one, just start with the Latin cross, has already showed you just the influence, and that's why I researched that god in particular, because it just throws it up. It's a god it always seems to give for research, and hopefully you'll enjoy the rest of this chapter. Right guys, so we're now on to St. Peter's Cross, and if you've watched my channel regular, or you knew, you won't have done, but I've not long done a video called Deus Deorum, basically about Janus being god of gods, and I was showing you that obviously St. Peter is based on Janos, and the fact that St. Peter, as to legend, died on an inverted cross, and he was martyrdomed. He was died on the cross on Janus's hill, Janiculum, and I was showing you how, everything about them being one and the same basically. But what's intrigued me is I thought, how they do everything in life, they mirror everything, but we always talk about this. So I thought, what, can I make a symbol if I mirror the standard Latin cross on top of St. Peter's cross? And I get what you can see now. And to me, when you merge both together, it was just screaming the squatter man. What people talk about a plasmic reset, I've talked about it being the voice of God. We've already talked about how this mark, this cross, is the cross of the corporation, Janus's mark, the 2 11s merged, the 2 keys, and I see it. Can you not see it? It really resembles a squat man, and this is just a generic. There's other ones that don't have arms going up or legs, and it's just straight out, and it just seems to me intriguing that it's very, 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 very similar. Now you might say, no, you're not on this one, Paul, but wait till later. Wait till I show you more crosses, and then you'll think, you know what, you may have a point there, Paul. So anyway, on with this. So you now have the X, and this is intriguing because it's basically fell on its side, basically, and this is what's known as St. Andrew's cross, upon which St. Andrew suffered a martyr's death, also called the crux decussata, and it means the boundary cross of the Romans, derived from the cross used by them as a barrier. So you remember when you see them even in war films, World War II films, and you see them having barriers on the beach. They're always like them little things that you used to stand on as kids, the little X's to block tanks and footbit. Anyway, you know what I mean, traffic. Anyway, the Romans used that as the boundary cross, and again it is, if you look at it, 2 11s, the doorway, and it's the boundary. Janos is known as terminus, the boundary also. So you can see why I always research this topic, because why not? Because it keeps on giving. Anyway, if you look at the boundary, and the boundary can be anything in life, there is a local, symbol that they use now for Twitter, which has now become the X. So you can just see how intriguing it is. I mean, you also have X marks a spot on a map, but I found that fascinating that it's talking about both the Peter's cross, the crucifix, the normal Latin cross, and then we move over to Andrew's cross, which marks boundaries, and it's basically the X. I found that very interesting. Maybe because I don't get out that much. So the last symbol or cross on page 14 is what is known as the Tau cross. I'll read this out and then I'm going to just read a bit more on it because it is fascinating. So Saint Anthony's, or the Egyptian cross, the Crux Commissa, also called the Tau cross from the Greek letter T, Tau. Saint Francis used this as his signature. So that's intriguing. Now I'm just going to read a little bit out, a little bit more than that, just to show you how significant this actual Tau cross or the Egyptian cross is. So just from the website I've just found, so from the dawn of civilization, the cross has stood as both ornament and religious symbols. Various cross or cross-like artifacts that date from long before Christian times have been discovered in almost every region of the ancient world: Persia, Egypt, Syria, India. All have been given up numerous examples, while Europe has yielded countless examples that date from the latter part of the Stone Age at the oldest. Using a cross in a religious context in the pre-Christian era is likely to have been almost universal. In a lot of cases it would have been associated with the worship of nature in some form. Later the Tau cross or the Crux Commissa would have closely associated with Saint Anthony as well as Saint Francis and his Franciscans. Cross of many names, it said. One of the most notable forms of the pre-Christian cross is the Tau cross, taking the name from its similarity to the Greek letter T. These crosses were often used by the ancient Egyptians. In Hebrew, this letter is written as an X, so that's fascinating, but it's pronounced in the same way. This sort of cross may also be referred to as the cross of Saint Francis, the cross of Saint Anthony, the Crux Commissa I've just mentioned, and the Old Testament cross. The Tau cross started life in Egypt as a pagan symbol and was later adopted by the Copts. Various designs of this cross were employed by normal Christians living in Egypt. The Egyptian hieroglyph representing life is called the Ankh. The Ankh has the appearance of a Tau-shaped cross topped with a loop, a design used extensively as a Coptic Christian gravestones. And it talks about a little bit of mythology here. In its extensive history, this type of cross was once representative of Mithras, a Roman god, and Attis, a Greek god. In Norse mythology, Thor's hammer is shaped like a Tau cross. In astrology, Taurus the bull takes his name from Tau, and even ancient druids made use of this symbol, scrawling it on the sacred oak bark. In terms of Christianity, the first reference to a Tau-shaped cross can be found in the book of Ezekiel. And then it says, as Christianity grew in popularity, this original pagan symbol started to take on Christian meaning. Christ's first disciples adopted it as a talisman, and it was thought by many experts that the crucifixion cross was in fact T-shaped rather than the classic cross that we see depicted today. The Egyptian monk Saint Anthony is said to have leaned on a Tau-shaped crutch, and when he went to visit a fellow monk, he would leave it outside the cave. Thus, the symbol, thus using it as a symbol of communication with God. So it's associated with various saints, as we've just mentioned, and it's also connected to Ireland. There are just 10 examples of the Tau cross left in Ireland. They are located in Rowan Hill in County Clare, this one, and Tory Island, Tawny and Canterslag on some places. So it actually connected to Ireland as well as an old Irish pagan symbol. So it's fascinating, this, and I think there was just a little bit something else that I saw that I wanted to use. As I briefly mentioned in that, Tau is a letter of the Hebrew alphabet, obviously, but it's thought that the symbol in which Ezekiel marked those chosen by God, like I just mentioned, the apostles, so that they got this T marked on the head. So That's intriguing, isn't it? So that's just a quick little bit on the Tau cross. So we're on to page 15 now, and we're still on the cross, and we're going to go into loads of crosses in this chapter. And what we're going to do, the first one on page 15 is the Greek cross, the crux emissa quadrata. From this and the Latin cross, the following forms were derived in the Middle Ages for heraldic purposes. So they're actually talking about the rest of these crosses that come up now are derived from the Greek cross and the Latin cross, and we'll go through all them like we just have been. So buckle up. So we're carrying on page 15, and I'm combining these two because they do come from one another. The cross Patee, which you can see at the top, and the Maltese cross. And what's intriguing, as you will know, obviously, the cross Patee and the Maltese cross, you will get associations with this. Obviously, the Knights Templar, obviously the Nazis used it for the Iron Cross, etc., etc. So the cross Patee, which means open foot at the top, and another derivative of the cross Patee and the links of the Greek cross is the Maltese cross. Now you'll see things like the Fire Brigade having basically a root of the cross Patee in it. As you can see, fire, honour, rescue, courage, basically. And you will see a lot of these, and some people argue that the 8 points of the Maltese cross, which is basically near enough identical to the cross Patee, and sometimes it's just about curves, a curve in it and a pointedness. Anyway, so the 8 sides represent the 8 languages of the Knights of the Malta. Those include parts of Avignon, Aragon, Castile, Leon, Portugal, England, and Bavaria and Italy that were under the control of the Knights. Some also say it doesn't mean that, it just means basically 8 points denote the 8 obligations of the aspiring Knights, namely piety, loyalty, frankness, bravery, glory and honour, contempt of death, helpfulness towards the poor and the sick, and respect the church. And what always intrigued me when you're looking at the cross Patee or the Maltese cross really is the fact that it reminds me of the pyramids of Giza, because I've been talking about this for many years. The pyramid of Giza actually has 8 sides, not 4, because it's convex in the middle, or concave, I can't remember which one. Anyway, it bows in the middle, as you can see, and it represents 8 sides. Now a lot of people, and me included, have been talking how, in my opinion, it was tied to the Sumerians, because someone has a symbol of the 8 cross or the 8 star, and obviously you'll know it is Ishtar or Inanna. Now for me, they're one and the same. I've always said this, haven't I, if you followed me for a while. And just to slightly go off topic, and we've already talked about the 8-pointed star in this, that's why I didn't want to go too much, but I always thought it was linked to Inanna, the pyramid, because as you know, Inanna or Ishtar to the Arcadians is represented by lions. She always had lions with her. Now some of you may be aware that the Sphinx, some say it used to be a lion, and I'm just going to show you a few images on screen now of lions. So the Sphinx used to be a lion, but what ties this in together with Inanna, not just being 8-pointed like the star or the rosette, was the fact that there used to be 2 lions, 2 sphinxes in front of the pyramids of Giza. So that's why I just want to go slightly off topic and mention that, because as soon as I saw the crosses, the cross Patee and the Maltese cross, and how it reflects the great pyramid of Giza, that just came to mind. So I had to go slightly off topic there. So hopefully you didn't mind that me going off on a little tangent on the Maltese cross and the cross Patee. I mean, there's a little bit more info I can read out for you guys. It's not too much, but it's still intriguing. I mean, the symbolic meaning of the cross Patee. The cross Patee has long been associated with religion, philosophy and the military. Here's some of its meanings: a symbol of valour from medieval times to the modern era. The cross Patee has represent honour and dignity. In Britain, the Victoria Cross is the most prestigious award given to members of the British Armed Forces, a symbol of nationality. It's no doubt that cross Patee is one of the earliest heraldic ensigns. A stylized version of this cross is used by the Bundeswehr, German armed forces, as an emblem of nationality, decorating the aircraft, vehicles and publications. It's also a symbol of Christianity. The cross Patee was first used by the Knights Templar and the Teutonic Knights, which are Christian military orders. The idea that all Crusaders were devout Christians somehow contributed to its significance on today's emblems and on many religious orders. And also in Christianity, the symbol generally is a symbol of sacrifice and salvation. So it is intriguing, and obviously you then have the cross Patee to the French and the German forces that used it, and obviously the Crusaders. It's intriguing, and I just want to put that little bit together and put the Maltese cross with that into one. Right guys, so we're on to the last 3 crosses. There's many more, but this is on page 15 and they don't give much description, they just give you the name of each cross. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to give you a quick meaning what they symbolise. It saves you the job, doesn't it? So we have cross botany, or the trefoli. You have the cross fleury, which is the fleur de lis, or the cross of cleves, and you have the cross pommée. Now each are given a meaning and what do they symbolise. So the botany cross is a cross with a trefoil or a trefoil design on the ends. The trefoil design is made of up to 3 knobs or buttons. It can be said that the knobs represent the 3 persons of the Godhead, namely the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit. And you can see with the trefoil on the end. Now there could be many meanings, but hey, we can't get into that right now because the video's long enough. So underneath you have the cross fleury or the fleur de lis, but this is just got the Y, so it's fleury. And it is said that each was often used as a symbol of resurrection. The 3 petals of the fleur de lis can also be interpreted as I've just mentioned, the Father, the Son and the Holy Spirit, or when used in heraldry, the fleury cross represent the virtues of wisdom, faith and chivalry. So that's what they're basically talking about. And obviously the fleury cross is a Christian symbol, obviously, because it's made into a cross. And the last but not least is the pommée cross. And again, this just has knob-like ends. But what was fascinating is the solid blob on the end of each arm of the pommée cross represents an apple. And apples represent the fruits and rewards of living a good Christian life. That's what it is said. So I never knew that. Well, there was little blobs on each end, and that definitely does remind you of the jumping jacks toys that I showed you before in regard to the X. Many times we've stood on them. So there you go guys, there's page 15 finished, and the last 3 crosses on that page. We've got so many more. So we're on page 16 and we're still on the cross. There's so many crosses, and this book doesn't even go into even more detail like some websites will, because there's so many crosses. I was like blown away just on how many there was. So we're on to the first cross on page 16, and it's what's known as the cross Patee Fiche, and as you can see it resembles a stake or a sword or a dagger, whatever way you want to call it, and this gained fame in the Crusades. There's not too much on it, but there is if you change its colour. Now it could be, I'm not saying it is, but when you change its colour to a red, as you can see on the right, you can see how very much like it is, whereas that has a cross on each of the points. It is very similar. Now what you're seeing on the screen is the cross of Saint Julian. Now I'll briefly go into this because I'll paraphrase it as such, because there is a lot on it. You will also find there is a black version of Saint Julian, and that's on the screen now, and I'll briefly go into it now so you can just see. But I just want to also show you that there is another variant of this cross, and this is the cross of James, or what's known as the Order of Saint Santiago, and it's from the Iberian or the Galician part of Spain and Portugal, and you can just see the cross in effect on the screen now. And I'll briefly go into these two. to give you a little bit of insight, because it is really intriguing. So I want to start with St. Julian, and there's a tale identifying this with a Clan McDonald's cross. And it's funny now, is it the same McDonald's that own the chain of burger restaurants? Who knows? But anyway, they talk about how this is being associated with an old 3rd century warrior, Finan, whose grandfather was cursed by a druid. Now, the druid said he would be killed by his own grandson. That's like a similar type of thing what happened, because this tale of St. Julian was cursed by a talking beast. Some accounts say a witch. And then this talking beast or witch basically told Julian that he would slay both his own parents. Now, Julian loved his parents and tried to avoid the curse by going to fight in the First Crusades. Now, like the Finan or Fionn, Julian became known for his fearless combat, because he actually hoped to die and therefore avoid the curse of, basically killing his parents. Now, when Julian returned from the Crusades, he fell deeply in love with and married a renowned, beautiful lady of means. Now, could they live happily ever after? Now, the story says, tragically, Julian's fate was determined. He was an avid hunter and returned home late at night to find a man under his covers. Now, instead of saying, "Oi!" he basically with rage, he ran his sword through both of them in the chamber. And still in a rage, he left the bedroom chamber only to find his bride standing in the hall, excitedly explaining his parents had come to visit. She had provided them with the very best accommodation, their own bed. And it goes on to say, there is no doubt why such a horrific tragedy became an enduring legend, but the hope provided by the legend of St. Julian is that redemption, even sainthood, is possible through penitence. So you can just see that is a crazy story, and that's associated with that cross that I'm showing you now. There's also, as I was just referring to, the Order of Saint Santiago, and basically they talk about how the cross helped them to defeat Muslims in that part of the region. So you can just see how inspiring to these people this cross was, and it just shows you the different symbology of a cross and the history of them. When you look deeper, you actually get blown away by some of the stories, myths and folklore attached to these symbols. Now, there's also what I didn't know and blew me away about the St. Julian one, and it was actually about him, if I can find it, is that he's actually the patron saint of travellers, ferry workers, hotel keepers, and he's also the patron of childless people, carnival workers, fiddlers, jugglers, murderers and pilgrims. So I didn't know murderers had patron saints. There you go, it's St. Julian. There you go, guys, that's the first one, the cross Patee fit chair. So we're still on page 16 and we're on to the second, and it's a familiar symbol, a familiar sigil. And as it's the Y, I've already talked about this, but it's also a cross, so they've included it in this section. And as you can see, it's a common figure, appears in this connection as the fork or the Furka cross, also called the thieves cross. So it's associated with thieves. So there you go. So we'll carry on while we've already talked about that. We're on to the next one now. It's what's known as the Patriarchal cross, or the cross Lorraine. Now, there's some very, very intriguing things about this that I want to talk about. I don't want to go into too much greater detail, but as you know, it appears on churches. It's linked to Joan of Arc, and you can see on the middle with the sword and the crown, that is Joan of Arc's crest, and you can see how it morphed into the cross of Lorraine, that we believe. Now, you will also find it on Oreos and all that symbolism that goes on, all that really intriguing stuff that goes with that. You've also got the Leviathan cross, which is eerie similar to the Patriarchal cross or the cross of Lorraine. Now, I'm going to include a video that I did on Meta and Facebook in regarding this symbol, just because I think it ties in nicely with the cross of Lorraine and the symbology behind that, because there's a lot of things I did not know about this. For anyone who's missed it, you would have to be living under a rock, as they say. Facebook is one of the biggest rebrands in our generation. They're changing its name from Facebook to Meta. Obviously, we know it's linked and tied to the metaverse, a bit like Ready Player One. But there's more to it, and I'm going to theorise about what the symbology of it can be. Now, most of us have seen the cringeworthy advert that he did for it, picking different avatars. I mean, I've slowed it right down here now so you can see the difference. I mean, there is more. There's a skeleton one here with fire at the side. More on that in a minute. Now, he eventually chooses a replica of himself, but we know it's all tied to transhumanism, AI, like I've just said. And what we found not long after it was released, people were actually talking about what Meta actually means. But Zuckerberg actually says that the word meta comes from the Greek meaning beyond, and it symbolises that there is always more to build. Yet no one in the firm this thought about, well, say what does it mean in other languages? And then it came out that meta in Hebrew means dead. I mean, who would have that as a brand name? It's crazy. So meta means dead or death in Hebrew. So I was thinking, and I've been thinking for the last couple of weeks, could there be more to it? Now, there's Facebook logo at the top and the meta at the bottom. Let's change the top to just the Facebook F. Are we getting what the logo could be, or the cult symbol could be now? Let me get rid of the meta. Now you have the Facebook F and the meta or infinity or ubros underneath. We know they love to reverse things and mirror things. So just as Zuckerberg is looking back at his AI self, his simulation, you have the two Facebook Fs together. But it's still not clear enough. So let me make it more crisp and just put two Fs back to back. Is there anything coming to you guys now? Let me put a black infinity symbol underneath. Now what you're seeing, are you getting it? This is what's known as the Leviathan cross or Satan's cross. It's also the symbol for sulfur, and it's the cross of Lorraine. Now obviously sulfur, and have you got the one I made on the left, and the cross of Lorraine, or the Leviathan or the Satan's cross on the right. To me, they are one in the same. It's not much difference considering I've just made it up. As we know, Anton LaVey basically adopted the symbol for the Satan's cross in the 60s. So think about it. Hell. What image do you get in your head? You get fire, brimstone, sulfur, death. And that's the image we've all been brought up for. Hell. Well, look, skeletons in hell there. Well, what was Zuckerberg got in his little video on Metaverse? He had his, AI self next to a fire pit. Why did he need the fire pit? Remember, he had a skeleton, just like the image I'm portraying underneath. And in the advert as well, he had barbecue sauce on the shelf. Barbecue? What's he barbecuing? So there you have the crude rendition that I did. You have the two Facebook Fs on top of the Meta logo. Then you had the crisper one to actually show you more, better in detail, how much alike it is to Satan's cross, the Leviathan cross, the symbol for sulfur, and obviously the cross of Lorraine. Now you tie that in with the fire pit, the skeleton at the side, the barbecue sauce that didn't need to be on the shelf, and everything else. Met meaning dead. So dead, hell. You can see where I'm coming from. Now, this video is not about what the actual meaning of the cross. Is it bad? Is it good? I know Anton LaVey adopted it in the 60s, and I know it has various other meanings, and especially in alchemy. It's all about the intent. Is their intent showing you that the metaverse is tied to hell, draining energy, siphoning energy, keeping us trapped? It's up to you guys. I didn't want to go too much in detail. I wanted to make a short video just showing you a crazy idea I had this morning about, whoa, if you put two Facebook Fs on top of the Meta, it looks like the cross of Lorraine, it looks like Leviathan cross, it looks like the Satan's cross. So that's why I've included all the different crosses it can be, and there could be many, many more. So I'm leaving it up to you guys, whether you feel it's an evil symbol, a good symbol, indifferent, you just don't know, because like anything, I can say, oh yes, it's the Satan's cross and it's evil. and I'll get 20 people saying, oh Paul, actually it's this, this and this. So that's why I love to leave things open. All I'm showing you here today is for they're nefarious people. Look at the symbol. They love to invert things. If I use a Facebook F, I invert another F behind it. To me, that was a Satan's cross. See what you guys think. Hopefully you can see what I was trying to get at. So I've just talked about obviously the Joan of Arc connection with this, but also it obviously dates back to also the Dukes of Lorraine in the Middle Ages at a similar time period, and it was adopted then, and obviously that's where she came from. But what intrigued me, and there's two parts to this, that the cross appeared 1,000 years or so before the Christian era in Egypt, where it was regarded as a symbol of goodness. That blew me mind. But you know, like, I get excited. But in the 11th century, yes, that 11 gets about, doesn't it? Godfrey de Bouillon, a Lorraine nobleman, made a pilgrimage to the Holy Land. He became the King of Jerusalem. I think he appears in that Kingdom of Heaven. The cross after this was known as the Jerusalem Cross and was taken as a symbol by a group of young French nobles who banded together under the name of the Knights Templar. So you got that right, guys. So in the 11th century, it's what is basically one of the first crosses the Knights Templars used under the name. And also Godfrey de Bouillon, the nobleman from Lorraine. So this cross of Lorraine somehow morphed into the Jerusalem cross that we know of today. That got me going, wow. So there you go. There's something hopefully you didn't know. So we're still on page 16 and there's three symbols. So I'm going to run through them quite quick because obviously most of you will know what they are. There's one of them intriguing me, but we'll get to that. So this is the papal cross, or the triple cross of the Western peoples. Now, there's various meanings of what the papal cross, which is basically the symbol of the Pope's power, and it's that some say the three bars represent the world, the church, and heaven. You know, there's various other types of this. You've also got the Russian Orthodox, which is slanted, which actually comes further on in the book. So that's an intriguing one. But what got me was the one underneath, and this is what's known as the broken or the chevron cross. Now, a lot of people have, again, a wide-ranging opinion on what this actually is. Now, some say it's known as like the witch's foot. Some say it's the mark of the beast. Some say it could be the original, because this is from medieval times, original meaning cross of, you know, the symbol of peace. And then you'll have people talking about peace, how the guy who invented it was wanted about talk about nuclear disarmament, and that's what peace was. But obviously, this again has been linked to Nero's cross and so many other things in regard to Satanism and things like this. But what is intriguing me about this is also because of its broken, people are saying, yeah, this is basically defacing, this is a shame on the cross because it's being bent and crooked, hence why all the talks of Satanism in regard to this broken cross. So let's finish page 16 with the cross potent. It's cross potent, or also known as the crutch cross. In early Christianity, they said this was to emphasize the victory and conquering power of the faith over the kingdom of darkness. It's got connection to the Teutonic Knights. You've also got how this became another Jerusalem cross, and then also something intriguing about how, and I did not know this, that the cross potent shape is found in pottery, decorations in both Europe and Chinese Neolithic. In Chinese bronze inscriptions, the glyph ancestral to the modern Chinese character shaman and witch. So they say it's tied to the symbol for shaman and witch in early times. So that's an intriguing, and this is just the cross potent. Just shows you how the cross and the cross patees and other crosses that I've talked about have changed and morphed into so many different meanings. Right guys, we're on page 17 and we're still on crosses. There's 3 or 4 pages left of this. So we're starting with this one. Another form of the cross potent. Allied to this is the cross Moline, which is met with 2 other forms. So there's 3 altogether that these are showing. Here is the other one. As you can see, it's a slight variation. It's like the opposite way it's bent. And then again, more profound hooks or a M with this one. Now, I'll read a little bit out on the cross Moline. It says the name derives from its shape, which resembles a mill rind or mill rind. Moline being the French old word for mill, the iron clamp or upper millstone. It is very similar to the one of the varieties of the third de Moline heraldic charge, literally meaning iron or mill. The fork tips of which, however, circle out slightly more, akin to the cross Resili. It is borne both inverted and rebated, and sometimes saltawise in the form of the saltier. The cross Moline is associated with the Saint Benedict of Nursia. As a result, it is widely based on the emblem by the monks and the runs of the Order of Saint Benedict, which is founded. So if you type in Saint Benedict's cross, you will see it is this shape that I'm showing you now. So we're just about to go on to another cross. And I remembered that, hey, I saw something that resembles these, the cross Moline. And I want to put this to you guys. Does this resemble the cross Moline? Now I want to show you now. So there's the first image. So what do you think? Let's do another one. A second one. And let's finish with a third. Now for me, it's bang on the money. And what you're seeing is the cross of the Cathars. To me, the cross Moline is a variation of that. What do you think, guys? And I mean, I always keep meaning to do a video on the Cathars because they're very intriguing, especially with the architecture of castles being high up in the mountains out the way and some of the beliefs. So, what do you guys think? Do you think the Cathar cross is the cross Moline or vice versa? So let's finish page 17. And as you can see, we have the 8-ended cross of the Russian Orthodox Church. The lower crossbar represents a footrest, and I believe the top was supposed to represent the plaque above Jesus' head, and so on. So it's intriguing. So the next part is what I was alluding to before, the Russian cross with a slanting footrest. As you see, it's like it's broken off. And last but not least on this page, the crosslet. That's a mouthful for you. The crosslet. Also called the Holy Cross or the German cross. Amongst the Gnostics, the sign of the fourfold mysteries. So that's intriguing on that, and it's near enough similar to the Jerusalem cross again. So there you go, guys. There is page 17. And what have we got coming next? Yes, you got it. More crosses. So we're on to page 18 and still on the cross. There's a few good ones to come up. Very intriguing when you look at crosses. Maybe something I'll have to look at separately because I find them fascinating. So let's start with the Jerusalem cross, which we've talked about a lot in this video so far. But what intrigued me was that, isn't it quite close to the alchemical symbol of distilled vinegar, as you can see on the right appearing on the screen. And it's funny that wasn't it in the Bible, it talks about giving Jesus vinegar on the cross. I wonder if that's anything to do with why they chose it as the alchemical symbol for vinegar. I don't know, but it's intriguing nonetheless. So the next on page 18 is the swastika or the fly-foot cross, derived from the sun wheel. Now, before I go on about the sun wheel, I did a video a very, very, very long time. It might have been one of the first videos I did, where I looked at the swastika and put in some numbers and came across a few things. For instance, obviously 2 equinoxes, 2 solstices, how it fits into the swastika, which is intriguing, isn't it, if you think of it? And look at the few others that was coming up now. So you had the 4 brainwaves, theta, alpha, beta, delta. You have the 4 cardinal directions, northwest, southeast, which spells obviously news. You had the earth, fire, water, and air, obviously the symbols for elements, the 4 elements. You have the seasons: winter, spring, autumn, summer. 4 stages of it's gone out of my head now. 4 states of consciousness. There we go, we'll get there in the end. So there's deep sleep, dreaming, waking, and transcendental. We get there in the end, won't we, Paul? But it's intriguing when you just look at it this way on the swastika and all these things that you could put into it. 4 states. Hey, what can you say? 4 states of matter: plasma, solid, gas, liquid. Then this is an intriguing one, because you know how I've always been into the celestial sphinx, the who, and obviously the 4 faces of God that's said in the Bible. And just look, it's Taurus the bull, Leo the lion, Asphyxius the eagle, which Asphyxius originally was an eagle from my research, and Aquarius the man. And as you can see, it fits into the origin of the cherubim or the seraphim symbol, the celestial sphinx. Now if you move on, you also can fit the symbol of the earth in it. So there's a lot of things that's intriguing. You've got the Windows symbol, the logo that everyone will be talking about when you say these things. But why is it? And I keep going back to it. I know sometimes it's, oh God, not again. But originally Janos had 4 faces, the 4-faced God. You can see it's still in Rome, on the oldest bridge in Rome. Still in Babylonia, what they found, 4-faced God. And as you can see, I've just twisted it so you can see all angles. It's all because of this 4-faced God, original God. That's just my opinion, why everything fits, because it all stems to Janos. Well, that's his Roman name. So what do you think of that, guys? I think it's intriguing. But see what you guys think. So we carry on, and as you see, we had the sun wheel underneath the swastika. Yes, and we know what the swastika represents in different cultures and how it was being bastardized. But let's just carry on. So we had the sun wheel, and then what you can't see on above this is it says by breaking the circumference of the circle, and it gives you what you can see on the right. Amongst early Christians, this, as well as many other symbols that follow, was used as a disguised cross during the persecution of the Christians. Hence its name, the crux dissimulata. It was also called the crux gammata. From the fact it being made up of 4 Greek gammas. So you can see how deep the swastika actually goes. There's not just different faiths and cultures, there's even the Christians used it as a symbol when they were getting persecuted. It's just very intriguing. Then on page 18, you have the elaborated form of the swastika, and these appear in churches, mosaics all across the world, time, culture, everything. It appears everywhere. And why does it? Because I'll keep going back to it, guys. Some may get bored of it. The original 4-faced God. So we're on to page 19, and yes, we're still on the cross. But there's some really, really good ones, isn't there? And you can see why the cross is so popular, because there's so many variations and different meanings of them. It's truly intriguing when you start just looking at it as a sigil, a symbol, a sign. You know, it's blown my mind, because you don't think about it, do you? So let's start with the first one, and it says the cross voided, or gamadria, so called for being composed of all 4 gammas. Closely related to this is the beautiful badge of the German gymnastics club, so they use it obviously. So you can see how it's the cross voided, but it's like a crossroad. As you can see, 4 roads lead to one. So that's an intrigue one, and also the Germans use it as the badge for the Germans, the gymnastics club. So on to the next one. This one's a weird one. So here's a weird one. It's composed of 4 F's, a standing for, and I can't pronounce it because it's obviously in German. Basically means hardy, God-fearing, cheerful and free. So there's an intriguing cross that I'm assuming none of us have saw before, because I haven't seen it. So that one is so weird. Next one, as you know, has been a symbol for Earth and different many things. It says this cross either hewn in stone or painted on the walls, and it carries on to the next one because there's two of them, of Roman Catholic churches, denotes that they have been consecrated. This is also met with sometimes in the form of a detached cross within a circle. So that is very intriguing. And like that symbol for earth and many things is also a note for consecrated ground. That blew my mind. Now the next one is wow to me. There's not much on this. It's known as the Roman Sacred Cross. So what's so sacred about this? Now I've been looking, couldn't find too much on it. They denote that it stems from about 400 AD or a little bit earlier, around Constantine time. And he said the three lines in the middle are supposedly to show the Trinity. You'll get a few of them even have like a candle wick on top of one. So this is the Roman Sacred Cross, and it's very unusual. It does resemble the Jerusalem cross that we've also seen. And to finish off page 19, like most of us know, the Egyptian symbol of life, the ansated or looped Tau cross, also called the key of the Nile. It's also called the Ankh. And that finishes off 19. I think we've only got 2 more pages, but there's some cool ones coming up. So we're on to the last 2 pages now with crosses, and I really love this. Now, if anyone wants to help me or the channel, it is truly appreciated. All you got to do is like, share and subscribe. That really does help the algorithms. And if you want to help us, the channel more for the hard work, please, you can buy me a coffee, or what I renamed, you can buy me a bar. All you got to do is find the link in the description or the QR code that's on the screen now. You can just scan it with your phone or whatever, and it helps you straight through. All help is so appreciated and humbling to me as a person. So right, let's crack on with this. So to page 20, the cross. So the first one that we come across is, as you can see, it's what's known as a Coptic cross, an Egyptian Coptic cross, a Christian ansated cross derived from the Egyptian sign, similar to the Ankh too. So that's what we can start off. It also resembles like the Venus, the symbol for Venus, which is coming up soon, which I'll try and remember to tell you guys that about this. So on to the next one, and this is another intriguing one. The Ankh cross was, like the last one, a disguised cross. In it we see the Tau cross concealed beneath the common symbol of the anchor. So obviously the association with the sea, fishes and different things with Christianity, and now you have the anchor cross, which is intriguing, isn't it, when you start putting it like that, the Holy See and different things like that. It's all tied to water. The next one is another Coptic cross. They say it's 4 nails, but I was wondering, could it be the Tau cross, the T, showing you that, the connection there. But hey, they just say it's a Coptic cross with 4 nails, and at the side, the raised cross occupied a large place in early Christianity, or Christians representing of the cross. So that's another intriguing one, and that's page 19. We still got a few left more on here now. So I've put these both together because they play on each other. And it says the earth upon which the cross was erected is here represented by a dot. Remember, the first sign in this book was the dot, because it starts off it. That's what they talk about. Sometimes there were 6 dots representing grains of sand. So those other crosses that you can see, it looks like dominoes at the bottom, but you have the cross, which is a weird type of cross with a dot underneath representing the earth, and then at the bottom are 6 dots represent grains of sand. Or is it 6 earths? Have we got more than 6 realms? Who knows? Right, so we're going to the last one on page 19, and this one is, do you remember what for earlier on I was talking about the squatter man? See, we get there and again we forget, hence this symbol. But there's a few other symbols that I want to show you first also. So this is the intriguing bit. So as you can see, it just says on this, it's a cross, and it says from an old coin. Now look at it. There's a few things. It does remind me of the Golgotha cross, which you can see on the left. There's a few variations of that. Also, it does resemble a Lithuanian cross, as you can see, really quite identical, apart from there's no base, so that's the intriguing thing. But, and I'm going to put the little screenshot on that I had. Do you remember me talking about when you put the two crosses together? Tell me. I just nailed it. So the two crosses, the Latin cross and St. Peter's cross, I said if you merged them, they did give you a Wicker Man type of scenario. What do you guys think? Do you think they are both quite resembling the same? I do. But there's something on page 21 when I get to that hopefully you guys will think, wow, I didn't think of that. Well, you probably have years ago, and there's me catching up like always. So that's page 20. So we're coming to the final page on crosses. It's page 21, and it's also going to be the finishing of this video for part 2. So hopefully you've enjoyed it, and hopefully you'll come back for the rest when I eventually get to make them. There's some really intriguing ones and a wow finisher for this pages, so hopefully you're gonna love it. So let's start off with the first one on page 21, and it says the cross erected on 3 steps. Now what screams to me straight away is obviously the cross, but also how it's situated within a door. I am the door. Who's the god of doors? I've been talking about it in this video. Is there any possibilities of this? If you remember from the old video, when they put a cross in a church above a door, it's called a rood, an R-O-O-D, a rood, which is door backwards. So connections within connections within connections. So the second one on page 21 is the cross erected on the column. Right guys, what do you see? Now it doesn't mean it is this, but what do you see? Now I'll give you a few seconds. This is what I see. Doesn't mean it is, but hey, shit and giggles, I can do it. I'm making the video. I see, those huge Viking swords that are planted on the hill. That is what I see. It doesn't mean it is it. I can't get away how resemble and lifelike they are to this symbol. So the cross erected on the column is very similar to that Viking swords. So the next one, and the third, is a cross standing upon 4 lines, and it says why there should be 4 is difficult to explain. They may symbolize the 4 evangelists. So that's another interesting one, the cross. Now we get into the good stuff now and the main part of what I was going to get. So remember the Wicker, why is it calling it the Wicker Man? But hey, who knows? The Squatter Man. Now look at these 2 crosses. Now to me it's not far off a Squatter Man image. It could be, some people could draw, and if you look online you'll see some variations of the Squatter Man. I just can't put them all on the screen, so I put, the closest one, or the one we all remember. So these 2 crosses, or the one specifically on top, is what I was trying to get at. It's a Squatter Man to me. And well, what is it? So these 2 crosses and the variation of, it says 2 raised crosses which were also designed as archangelical. Now, archangel crosses. Now this got me thinking. People talk about resets, plasma resets, and this is why this symbol, the Squatter Man, was put in the basically in the sky for people to see. What if, this is just a huge what if, when anything is done by cymatics, sound, and it hits a medium, it creates a sigil, it creates cymatics. So what if the horns, the archangel horn for judgment, remember people talk about we had a reset then, so what if there was a reset, the archangel horn sounded, and what the symbol of the Squatter Man appeared is not only the basically sigil from the archangel. So how about that? I don't know if anyone's talked about that before. I just found it intriguing. As soon as I saw these archangelical crosses or archangel crosses, I said to me, wow, they look like the Squatter Man. it looks like a man standing. And then I'm thinking, it's a squatter man. It's very similar to that. Cymatics. So if the horns of judgment in that period precurses the flood, I don't know how many resets people think we've had, or is it just going to be one judgment, or is it judgment over a period of time? I don't know. I'm just theorizing, and this to me is a possibility of that. I don't know what you guys think, and see what you think. I mean, I didn't even know there was an archangel of sound or music. A lot of you will out there because you're a lot smarter than me, but there is a Archangel Sandalphon, is known as Angel of Music. He rules over the music in heaven and helps people on earth use music to communicate with God in prayer. Saldalphon means co-brother, which refers to Saldalphon's status as a spiritual brother of the Archangel Metatron. The ending of an indicates that he's ascending to his position as an angel after first having lived in human life, believed by some to be the prophet Elijah, who ascended to heaven on a horse-drawn chariot of fire and light. Other spellings of his name include orphan, like Ophan, Hebrew for wheel. This refers to ancient people's identification of Sandalphon as one of the living creatures with spiritual wheels from Ezekiel's wheel. So that's intriguing, isn't it? And some people talk about how you use Sandalphon to pray, to reach God, or could it be just as I'm talking? And people even talk about how Sandalphon helps the genders of people before they are born. The cymatics, the music from God. Who knows? But I just found it intriguing. That symbol reminds me of the Wicker Man. Why do I keep saying the Wicker Man? The Squatter Man. It reminds me of the Squatter Man, Paul. And I've always wondered, and I've done various videos on it. I know people talk about the theory of other channels, but what if this symbol was cymatics? I've even talked about how it resembles the throat, the voice box in some of my videos not long ago, so go and check them out. I think they were on the cave or the caveman thing. Who knows? I just don't know. I'll leave it up to you guys. So I'm going to finish now. This is the last one on page 21, and it's a cross with a hand. It's raised cross with a hand beside it from an old coin. Now, could it be, is it associated with what is known as the Red Hand, which is on the Northern Ireland flag? I just don't know. But I'm sure there's something to it, but we're coming to a close and we've been here for 50 odd minutes now. So I'm going to finish on there, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Please hit the like, share and subscribe, and hopefully it won't be too long until part 3.